Today we're going to be learning about the Boston Tea Party and how it was a contributing factor to the Revolutionary War. As we've been learning in class, there were 13 original colonies. The colonies were owned by the British, and the people who lived there were known as colonists. The British government was taxing the colonists for a variety of reasons, and the taxes were overwhelming to the colonists. These taxes were created by the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, and the Townshend Revenue Act. The colonists were very upset about these taxes, since they did not have any representation in the British Parliament. The Parliament is the British form of government. Since the colonists had no representation in the Parliament, the tax money was not being used to meet their interests. One group that formed to protest these taxes and other issues with the British government was the Sons of Liberty. The Sons of Liberty were founded by a patriot named Samuel Adams. The Sons of Liberty protested the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, and the Tea Act. Now pay attention carefully because the Tea Act is the reason that the Boston Tea Party occurred. The Tea Act did not place a new tax on tea. The tax on tea was already created by the Townshend Revenue Act. The Tea Act was actually an act of British Parliament that was an effort to get the British East India Company out of debt. What it did was give the company a monopoly on tea. This meant that the colonists were forced to only buy their tea from the British East India Company. The colonists did not like the Tea Act, and they began to protest receiving the tea. This document is actually a primary source. It reports on a meeting that was held to get the tea that was shipped from the British East India Company to Boston to be sent back to Britain. However, the governor of Massachusetts, Thomas Hutchinson, refused to ship the tea back to Britain. His refusal led to outrage, and on December 16, 1773, the Boston Tea Party occurred. On this night, 60 members of the Sons of Liberty got together to host the Boston Tea Party. This primary source here is a map showing where the members of the Sons of Liberty went. It was Griffin's Wharf in the Boston Harbor. The members boarded 3 ships that were loaded with tea cargo. The ships were the Dartmouth, the Eleanor, and the Beaver. The Sons of Liberty members had disguised themselves as Native Americans when they boarded these ships. Once on the ships, the Sons of Liberty members dumped 342 boxes of British tea into the Boston Harbor in protest of the Tea Act. This became known as the Boston Tea Party.